My topic is about binocularity after the talk of Emanuele Mignini, which I found exciting. Suppression is a reaction to diplopia. It's a well-known phenomenon. However, we need to make some distinctions. Suppression is a central phenomenon, more or less stable. It is cortical inhibition of one of the two eyes. So you remove diplopia. Historically, it was called diplopia phobia. Opposition to diplopia is something that the visual system does not accept. Defocusing is well accepted but not diplopia. So it has to get rid of it. We know about suppression, constant suppression due to strabismus or anisocoria. Suppression in these circumstances is quite broad. One eye sees and the other eye has a suppression area shown by that ellipse. The center is in suppression. A classical test is Ward's test, which identifies and detects this phenomenon. This is an 18-year-old boy with plus 250 in both eyes, hyperopic since he was young, good vision in both eyes, no amblyopia, no significant history. He started being corrected early. The only thing was low stereopsis. Worth standard was normal, active fusion, and also near worth, like this. But if the worth was put a bit farther away, you would have this outcome, almost like a switch. At 40 centimeters, you would see 4 images. At 83, there was central suppression, a bit like small field suppression. If you use tests with wider fields, then you have a larger suppression area for orthoptics, for example. Binocularity for orthoptists is different from that of optometrists, so we have a different tool to assess and test. So the idea was to pay attention to stereopsis, because if the angle is very wide, up to 150 seconds, you're quite doubtful, but below 150, you're sure that it's binocular vision, even with worth tests. Intermittent central suppression is another clinical entity. It's a clinical condition with low angle suppression, central suppression. It comes and goes. You may have binocularity and suppression alternating. Subjects may be symptomatic or non-symptomatic. They have some difficulties in establishing a relation between the two eyes for binocular vision. Many studies were carried out on this topic. Fabrizio Zeri also contributed to this topic with a study. In intermittent central suppression, which is like this, the suppressed area is very small and then it disappears. Well, this is central to the fovea. The whole fovea area is 5 degrees, and this suppression is 2 degrees, so quite limited. We started investigating this, starting from central suppression. Eva Pacor published this dissertation on students working at the PC. So she checked whether suppression was a bit more frequent after staying at the video terminal for some time. Western card test and Bagolini test, a variant of Bagolini test, were used. This is the mira test. The subject was asked whether he or she could see both fields or whether one field was dark or attenuated. With the Bagolini glass, the test aimed at detecting whether there were some interruptions, some image interruptions. True intermittent central suppression, true ICS, has to have 2 or 3 second interruptions, and then the event again, and then another pause. All the statistical analysis was carried out quite quickly, but you can probably appreciate that inside the circles, the red bars are those of the second detection. After working 2 hours at a computer, suppression phenomena in younger subjects were more frequent. Some tended to have suppression episodes. Well, this is something we were interested in. In the literature, this French author says that 81% of presbyopes have suppression under normal circumstances. He used the mallet near unit. We'll take a look at this later. We focused on a sample of presbyopes, and this is Giulia Solda's dissertation. In non-presbyopes, there was 7% suppression. In presbyopes, suppression was 3-fold greater. This dissertation included a questionnaire. Those with the highest suppression had less symptoms, because suppression is a way to put a remedy to their disturbances. This is another dissertation by Elena Cannavo. She used a card similar to Western card. They were all presbyopes with multifocal correction and monovision correction. 56% of presbyopes have spontaneous suppression. 1 out of 2 tend to suppress spontaneously, or even more than 1 out of 2. This was presented at the European Academy and was awarded a poster prize. This is mallet foveal suppression test. This test allows you to quantify the suppression field. This is the true test, and this is a simulation where the subject may miss some symbols or letters, so the suppression area is small. We have to be careful, because if the test is invasive, it sort of triggers off suppression. Frederick Brock has warned us since the 40s, saying that one has to use environmental techniques which are very similar to the natural ones. We tend to use two artificial conditions sometimes. We also correlated suppression with visual ability. There is indeed an impairment. If you think about it, it's also reasonable. If one tries to reduce suppression, reading indicators improve a little bit. If every now and then this area is lost, so if every now and then you have a suppression area in the text, reading becomes a bit more critical. And then you have other critical conditions. In the army, for example, Hussey carried out a training session to reduce ICS, thus improving their shooting ability. These people have to aim and shoot. If you have suppression in between, the result is not that exciting, as pointed out by Hussey. This is connected to inadequate presbyopia correction in the world. Presbyopia and moderate to severe visual impairment in third world countries may cause productivity losses. Productivity losses are greater in developed countries, though. In developing countries, people tend to waste time if presbyopia is not corrected. In developed countries and developing countries, even if they have more basic requirements, as was discussed previously, the idea is that care should improve, be cheaper and more accessible. You know that opticians and optometrists are in the first line to solve this issue, because the use of a physician to make such visual examinations would be too expensive and unaffordable. We have to be careful about binocularly unstable vision. There was a study by Hussey, but also by Pocaterra and Maffioletti, who observed that there was a correlation between critical binocular vision and car accidents. Those that don't see very well don't have so many car accidents. Those with binocularly impaired vision have more accidents. We know that with suppression there is an acuity loss. There is less stereopsis, some visual instability and discomfort. But patients don't tend to complain about these issues. Do you think there is reduced productivity, or there's a higher rate of accidents? I think that patients should rather use devices like this one, invented by the Japanese to avoid such problems. I leave you with a picture. Sergio Cappa talked about the history of mankind, evolution. Professor Charman spoke about the lines of evolution. Susanna talked about our age, and chimpanzees behave in the same way. They may live up to 15, 20, 30 years, then they die of natural causes. In zoos, chimpanzees can live longer. There is one of them that ended up in the headlines. This chimpanzee is a bonobo. He became presbyopic. Look at his behavior when his mate moves. This one is removing the fleas from him, and as the other one moves, then Ted would move back. So he's probably 50 and a presbyope. Thank you.